Hello, everyone. I'm April Rain, and welcome back to another episode of Sinvergüenza. Well, you guys will not believe me, but I've attempted to record this episode 3 times now, and every single time, something has happened. Either I mistakenly didn't click the record button and talked and rambled for 10 minutes, or my phone glitched. So, I'm going to attempt one more time, and I'm going to flip it around a little bit. First, I hope that everyone had an amazing Christmas. I hope that everyone's Christmas wishes came true and uh, that everyone is now sprinting forward to the new year with a very optimistic view of what the world is to them. That being said, today's episode will focus on the most amazing gift I've ever received as a mother. Backstory first, as usual. As you guys have come to learn, dynamics, my family, insane, chaotic, abusive. All of those words, just jumble them together because whichever order that you put them in, they'll probably be like exactly what it is that I want to explain right now. My mother has always been a very demanding person. She's been this way since I was a child. I mean, I can't remember my mother not being demanding. She's, of course, pushed that on to my oldest sister, who was just as demanding, if not 10 times worse. I mean, I think I can safely say she was worse. But still, it was a very demanding environment that I lived in as a child. I guess that's why I had a need to people please, Seeing mom happy was something I've always wanted, especially after I became a mother. A few years back, I had decided to make a huge move to Houston. A move I wasn't ready for with a partner that was pretty much worthless. And I can say that now. I I hate putting that title on people, but after years of knowing this person, after stupidly being married to this person, I can nitpick my entire life with him, and there was no worth of even himself that he brought over, because not even he gave himself that. He treated himself so poorly. He gave himself zero to no self-respect, and it showed. So I decided to make this move. I was already a divorcee times two. I already had children from two previous marriages or two previous relationships. And I was attempting to make a huge move because I didn't want to stay stuck where I was. And I felt that completely changing my environment was where I had to go. Made my way to Houston. Before I left, I had spoken with my first ex and let him know what the plan was. Because I had the gut feeling, I made an arrangement with him. He was easier to deal with than my most recent ex-husband. He was easier to deal with. We had already figured out our whole custody deal. We had paperwork. Everything was golden. Regardless of how absent he was as a dad, he lived in an environment that allowed for my children to be safe. He still lived with his mother, who technically, for most of my oldest daughter's life, was her like caregiver. She helped me raise my children. She was their nanny for the most part. She was the only person I trusted leaving my babies with, and she would never let me leave my babies with anyone else. Even when we split up, she was a great grandma. Can't say much for, a suegra or even a mom. I don't know her like that. I do appreciate everything she did for me, and I respect everything that she did for me as a woman, but I don't know what she was like as a mom. I do see her children, and I can't give her any credit, at least not yet. Haven't seen anything great. Just being blunt here. But I was able to leave my oldest children with her. while I got myself situated. My babies, well, there was a different story. I attempted to communicate with their dad, and things got really ugly and really messy really quickly. There was some slapping, there was a sister involved, there was a nephew coming down to beat somebody up. It was horrendous. Like, there was no chance of attempting to communicate with this person. And I just call him person because he's technically an entity, like some ghost in our lives. Like, we don't know of him, we don't like to hear of him. We don't know anything about this man, and it's great. It's great. But regardless, I had made the decision to move. Instead of placing my children in daycare and paying thousands, which I did not have because I had not secured work yet. I know it was the stupidest way to move possible. It was dumb. It was very dumb. It was very chaotic and idiotic, but it happened and I did it. Instead of letting the Houston daycare system raise my children, I decided to ask my mother, who was currently not working. Nobody was working at my parents' home. They had 2 adult sons living in their home, and nobody was working. So I cut a deal with my mom. I said, please, instead of me paying for daycare, would you be willing to care for my babies? And I pay you. I pay you, and we do whatever possible to make sure that my children have everything they need under your roof. She agreed. She was technically going to get paid and have her fridge full of food and just be able to exist and take care of my children. I mean, I thought it was a perfect situation. I thought it was great. So I ended up dropping them off with my mother. I made an agreement with her. She took everything that came at me. I wasn't working. I was trying to get work and it wasn't coming. No matter what I tried, I couldn't get a job. It was disgustingly horrible. I was going insane. I was living off of the measly $300 a month that my ex would pay in child support. Now, that is the first ex, not the second one. The second one never paid me a penny, and to this day hasn't. That is on the record. Now, I was trying to stretch that out, sending a bulk of that to my mother. And it was crazy because those aren't even the children whose child support it was supposed to help support. Those other children were back home. So guess what happened to a piece of that as well? I sent that back to grandma as many times as I could. As many times as I could. And eventually, after a minute, we had lost our home our living situation wasn't our home. We were staying with an uncle who ended up getting evicted because he didn't tell us he wasn't paying the rent. Lo and behold, guess who was living in a car? Myself and my ex-spouse, who was just a boyfriend at that time. Again, my brain thought that's all I deserved. Being with somebody that was just as horrible as the people that I tried to love. People that raised me. Regardless, I ended up homeless. That first night, sleeping in the car, knowing damn well that me by myself would have never put me in that situation. Trying my hardest to figure out whether I should just stay and push out of it, whether I should leave this person, go gather my kids, and start over without this person. There was a lot of mental manipulation being done in the back end by this person, to the point where he guilted me into making sure he was okay because I was the one that wanted to move to Houston. Of course, that created the hustler in me. After a few months, I ended up getting my little ones back. Hustled my way into a job and into a side hustle and created this life that I was just consistently performing in. I was outdoing myself. I was overperforming in every way, outside of motherhood. I'm going to say that again, outside of motherhood. Provider, damn right, I was. the provider. I got us our first apartment in Houston. I hustled the deal out for the first apartment in Houston to make it work for me and my kids so I can have enough financial stability regardless of the other person in my life being more like an anchor than a propeller. Um, I did what I could with what I had as much as possible. A couple years had gone by, and I had kind of gone back and forth with my mother about bringing my children back. I keep telling her, hey, I'm good. Like everything's golden. You're literally getting a deposit every 2 weeks. My paycheck would be half deposited to myself and the other half to my mother under the table. I would pay her to take care of my children more than she needed. I bought a brand new car, and after a minute, I sent her that car when I was able to acquire a new car. I sent her a car that she didn't have to pay anything on, that I still held insurance on, that I still covered, that I still made payments on, so she could have a vehicle to drive my children around, a safe, insured vehicle to drive my children around to wherever they wanted. All she had to do was pick up the phone, and she would. Hey, the girls want to go to the fair. I need so much. And boom, I would make a deposit. And she lived a very comfy life for a good minute. There came a point where I fought with my mother back and forth to bring my children home. For some reason, I kind of, at that point, felt like my children were being held hostage. I didn't know what was going on. I had just brought them home, and I just brought them home. And my mother had convinced me via a phone call and so many attempts to just, I don't know, she attempts to pull all my emotion out of me. She would call me and tell me that my father needed the children. My father needed the kids in his life so he could have a reason to wake up every morning. They had his psychologist call me and ask me if there was anything I could do about bringing the children back because my father was doing great. At this point, I want to sue that damn doctor because the whole mental manipulation behind it was just incredibly insane. I had brought my kids home. I had an in-home nanny for them. They were so happy. It was great. I would show up and they would be ready to show me all the things that they did all day with the nanny, the yogurt pops that she made them. They were babies and I was finally feeling so good, but I kept getting phone call after phone call after phone call from people who were pushing me to save my father's life. I haven't spoken about him. But because of the life that he lived and the type of professional he was, his brain wasn't the same. By the time he was 45 years old, he was diagnosed with all types of mental disorders, schizophrenia. He had bipolar disorder, I think ADHD, and a few other things. And I think suicide ideation was also another. And in the time that I had brought my babies home, my father had been looking for ropes to hang himself. And that was something that they were using to kind of manipulate me. Everyone, my brothers, not my oldest sister, but everybody else, including that damn doctor. I ended up sending my children back. And within a few months of that, oh no, it was like 2 months of the time when my mother came to pick up my children because they drove all the way down to come and get them. Within a few months, I get a phone call that from my father, and he's crying. He wasn't completely gone. Obviously, he was on medication, so he was doing a lot better. The children were with him. He felt more sane. And he called me and he was crying and he says, "April, your mom's going to die." I was floored. I didn't know what was happening. He said, your mom's going to die. Now, backstory, my mom had experienced some health issues and was requiring emergency surgery. Not to expose all her health issues, but as us Hispanics know, we are prone to diabetes almost immediately from the womb. That's just the way it is. Well, my mother, being the alcoholic that she is, of course, was going to experience a moment in her life that it would catch up to her. Now, it caught up to her, but not really. It was a little bit of both. My mom required a surgery that she was not insured for. She had no insurance, she had no job. I was paying her under the table. Cash. So she wasn't reporting that. There was no need for her to report it. I get a phone call and he says she needs emergency surgery. We need $3,000 to get her on the table. The rest we can pay in payments. And I said, okay, you can set me up for the payments. Even that. I said, set me up for the payments. Can I call the financial department? Can I work out an agreement? Like, can I give maybe half? I was doing well, but not that well. I couldn't just fork over $3,000. Like I said, my partner was pretty worthless and he was also an addict. So there was a lot of money just missing all the time. I feel lost because I don't know how to help. I do know, however, that my brother-in-law had just left on another tour and that my sister had $40,000 sitting in her bank account that had just gotten paid out to her. As you can assume at this point, I'm okay with my sister. We had spoken here and there. We were talking and, attempting to be adults and let go of stuff. This happened a lot in our life. Well, I told my dad that I couldn't, but that I knew that she had money in her account and if he could please give her a call and that I would pay her back, that we could get on a three-way and that I will personally pay her back those $3,000 to get mom on the table. He calls and he returns my call after lunch. I was at work. And he explains to me that the only thing my sister had said was, just let me know when the funeral is. Yeah. Yeah. My mother's favorite child. My mother's pride and joy would not bother to help her get the emergency surgery she needed so she wouldn't die. I was able to complete a few things. I was able to do some research since my mother was technically looking after my children. She needed access for their medical stuff and whatnot, and I was looking through some stuff. I wanted I wanted the income that I was sending her to count for something. I wanted to be able to report it. I was doing it all wrong, but this is where I learned a lot of the things that I know now. This is why my resume is what it is. I know everything from a paralegal standpoint, all through accounts payables, accounts receivables, payroll, human resources. That is literally my resume, guys. And the reason why is because of all the back end stuff that I've learned, it just sticks. So, with all my research being done, I ended up finding a way to give my mother guardianship to get her approved for Medicaid with the money that I was paying her as income. My mother, within receiving that document from the attorney that I had worked for, the paperwork was all drawn up, power of attorney was given, all that, or guardianship was given, everything was handled, all paperwork was mailed to her overnight, and within 7 days, my mother was on the table. My mother was undergoing surgery for a life-saving procedure. All I had to do was give up my kids. Unfortunately, that's exactly how I see it now. It was blanketed in a whole, you're going to save your mom's life. And that's exactly what I thought I was doing. But now, as an adult, I'm sitting here and I was giving up my kids for the sake of someone else. They saved my mom's life. My mom continued to receive all types of benefits like, food stamps and Medicaid for, her and my babies. It was the perfect plan. It was great. It was great. Until I couldn't stand it anymore. And my brothers were being disgusting to me and my children. When I received a phone call the day that my my mother went into surgery from my oldest sister, telling me, threatening me, not telling me, threatening me to go pick up my mistakes of children from her mother's house because my mother was in no condition to be taking care of my misery. Yes, yes, that's what she referred to my children as. I don't know where the hell that came from. It just slapped me in the face. I thought everyone knew that I paid for it. I thought everyone knew that the reason why mom had been able to do this was because of me. I mean, I'm not the person to go and tell everybody, look what I did for you. Look what I did for mom. Look what I did for dad. I'm not that person. No. God, there's so much I've done for so many people that no one knows. No one knows was me. Because that's not who I am. But I did expect for somebody, anybody, to explain that to the rest of my siblings, especially her. But no, I got threatened. I got cussed. My kids got cussed. They got cast out. They got threatened. A whole bunch of stuff as my mom is undergoing surgery. Afterwards, my siblings that were in my mother's house, my brothers that were in my mother's house, they reassured me that everything was fine, that they had it all handled, and not to listen to my oldest sister. Don't worry about it. You know, we've got it. We've got the kids. We've got mom. Everything's okay. Of course, they were going to be that way. I was paying for them to eat. I was paying for their light to stay on. I was paying for the heat to stay on. I was paying for literally their entire way of life. They had been starting to use my vehicle, which I had restricted. And that's where things got ugly. I started getting notifications from people all over their tiny town, people that knew me personally, that my brothers were out there doing donuts at parties in my vehicle that I had specifically told my mother not to let them use because that vehicle was not for joyriding. That vehicle was not for drunk driving. That vehicle was a chariot for my children. And that's it. And of course, for them in any sense or emergency, but for my babies. That was the last line. I actually had an uncle he's an ex-uncle, come up to me one of the times that I visited my children at my parents' house. And he wasn't even close to my parents anymore, but he was still going around my parents' house. Recently, I just found out it was because of my kids, but because they had seen the treatment that was being given to my children. Treatment that I wasn't aware of it, even though I probably should have assumed. The second time I show up to visit my children, I've got my brothers trying to tell my babies that I'm their sister and to call me by my name. Fights, of course, broke out. Arguments ensued, and it was always ugly. I should have already known and I should have assumed. And I think as a struggling individual trying to prove myself, I didn't know where to prioritize anything. All I knew is that my kids were in a safe house, in a safe home, being fed every day, but I didn't know what safe really was because that was the environment I was used to. So it was really nothing to me. I guess I didn't think that they would do it to my kids. I've seen my mother with her other grandchildren, and she's the best. She's the best to them. Again, I should have known better. Regardless, my uncle pulled me aside one day at a party and said, "When are you going to come for your babies?" The look on his face was so concerning. I still remember it. It made my whole body shudder because I knew that something was wrong. It didn't take me long after that to make arrangements to get my babies back. I did. I think within a month I was back up there, and I had already gotten in the hugest argument with my mother. Everybody started cussing me out even more. Everybody started talking shit. She had gone on Facebook. Yes, my mom was one of those Facebook ladies. Yes, a boomer on Facebook. And she had slandered me, calling me the worst daughter in the world because I was coming to pick up my children and that I was so inconsiderate and I was taking her car away from her and that I was doing all these nasty things. She even had my jackass aunts they're not ants, I'm sorry, they're not insects, aunt. Excuse me, I'm Hispanic. Still, my crazy, insane, never involved with me aunts that lived all the way in California on my father's side who never gave a shit about me as a child up until now into adulthood start slandering me all over Facebook, trying to tell her and give her names of attorneys so she could sue me for custody because I'm such a worthless mom and because I'm such a horrible child and that I don't deserve my kids. Like, it was horrific. Everybody was just piling onto me, no matter what I had just done. I still took my kids home and I distanced myself from my mother for a few months. I didn't call her. I didn't talk to her. I knew the bitch was alive. I knew she was okay. I knew that she was also a CNA and that if she wanted to, she could get back to work. I knew my brothers were both CNAs or med aides and they could go work. I knew that my dad himself, as an individual without any kind of income, could get some type of services for his disabilities. I had seen to that. I had sent in his application for disability. I had helped him through the process. I knew it was there and it was coming. I knew they were going to be okay. I knew they were going to have sufficient income to take care of themselves. So I left with my children, my car, and anything else I needed to. I was the most horrible daughter on the face of this planet. Horrific. The last Christmas, before I picked my children up, my mother had asked for one thing, and that was a photo with all her children in it. It was something that she had not been able to have done for her. My siblings and I, we will never be in the same room at the same time. Sadly, I can say not even for her funeral. The Christmas before, it was the only thing that she wanted. I had planned an entire Christmas. I had been planning it for 6 months. Since my sister had threatened me, she and I also had our falling out. She knew that that Christmas was my Christmas. My parents had gone down to her home almost every single Christmas. And this time I said, no, we're staying where there's snow. I'm coming to you. I'm showing up like Santa. And I did. I even borrowed a friend's truck. I switched my vehicle for the truck. And I showed up full of gifts for everybody. All kinds of gifts. I get a phone call as I'm driving up. I'm already 6 hours away from Houston. And my mom tells me that my oldest sister has decided to beat me to the punch and get to her a day sooner. Uninvited. Uninvited. 100% uninvited. I wanted to scream. I cried and I wanted to scream. I still had a good 10 to 12 hours until I got to mom's house. She called me and just begged and begged and begged for me, as usual, to be the bigger person and to just be okay with the fact that she was there and that she was going to be there and that we're just going to all have to put up with her attitude and all going to have to put up with, because my mother had just in that same phone call asked me for something that I knew was never going to be possible. She said, every single one of you will be here in my house. And all I want is the picture of all my children in the same photo with me and your dad. I agreed. I said, okay, I'll be the bigger person. That's fine. That's fine. I don't have any gifts for her kids. So they're just going to have to be okay with like money. And my mom said, you don't have to get them anything. I already went out and got them some stuff. She'll get here in a few hours. So again, the manipulation was just so intense. In 2 seconds, I call one of my younger sister's friends or message her and ask her for the most impromptu photo shoot ever. She agrees. I pay her. I send her the money. We make the agreement to have a photo shoot outside my little sister's family's farm, her in-laws farm. We get there, we arrive, and thankfully my sister is not there. My sister is in my younger sister's house. So we were able to kind of just anticipate her arrival. As you can assume, everything is going great. I'm handing out everybody's gifts. I'm giving them all their stuff because I think we arrived right before. I think it was like Christmas Eve when we got there. And I just started showing up like Santa and handing everyone their gifts. Like there was no tradition. There was no celebration. There was nothing. Like I just knew that everybody was going to end up super drunk at night. All the kids were going to get ignored. And then we were just going to wake up when the kids woke up and half-assedly do Christmas presents in the morning while my mom made something to nurse everybody's hangover. So I just started handing out everyone's gifts. As you can assume, my sister gets there, her whole posse. Her kids are great, but when they're really close to their mom, they kind of become her, as any child would. They walk in and everything is great. My sister starts to nitpick. She doesn't say hi to anybody. She goes straight into the kitchen. My dad has to yell from the living room, are you not going to say hi? She peeks her head back into the dining room / living room area and she says, hi. Not to anyone directly, just hi, and goes back. We're fine. I already knew she was going to do this. She hates me. She's treated me like this her whole life. She can't stand the sight of me. Maybe because I'm prettier. Yeah, I'm going to say that. I've never said it to her. Still, she makes it her goal to make every single person, including the children, uncomfortable. I had brought my dog, who was an indoor dog. He was a rescue. He was a big old bloodhound. He was adorable. And freshly groomed and whatnot, and made sure that his breath didn't stink or anything of the sort. My mom did have 2 dogs in the house already. So it was, a pet house. I got permission. Of course, my sister made it a big issue. Started getting disgusted with my dog and, ew, get this dog out of here. What the hell is this? And, ew, ew. Like when I say she got under my skin with her need to be excessive before anything, that's what happened. She started making every single little thing an issue to the point where I got tired. She had gotten under my skin. She had rolled her eyes at me, my children, and everyone, trying to get her to just be civil, calm, and cheerful. And I just had enough. I slammed my hands on the huge wooden table that my parents had brought up from Texas. We had had this table our whole life. This damn table had seen so many fights and been flipped over so many damn times. It was solid wood. It was still in one piece. It was huge. I slammed my hands down and in a fit of rage, asked her with a shriek in my voice, what the fuck have I done to you to make you hate me this fucking much? To come and ruin my Christmas that I perfectly planned out for me and my children. What have I done? It was so silent. Children, my parents, my siblings, spouses, crickets were present. Everybody is staring at her because I was pretty sure everybody wanted the exact answer to that question. My whole life I've been needing it. My whole life I've been wanting it. Instead, it ended with her playing an imaginary finger violin and calling me it over and over to my mother. Mom, get it away from me. Mom, why is it talking to me? Like I said, she did everything to get under my skin. I wish that this second half could have ended differently, but it didn't. I went for her. I felt every fiber in my soul needed to beat the crap out of her. But instead, I was met with both my dad and my mom blocking her because she had experienced some health issues with her heart. She was literally wearing a meter on her heart, or like what is it called? I don't know. You guys know what it is. Something that was measuring the metrics in her heartbeat and whatnot. And she wasn't supposed to get herself riled up, but here she was, causing all this shit inflicted drama. Like it's shit filled. It was just rage. We have a term for it now, I guess, thanks to social media, but she was rage baiting the crap out of me to the point of eruption. I didn't get an answer that guy days. Wow, there goes the flipping of the words. I didn't get an answer that day, guys. I didn't. Instead, she was shooed from the house, or she didn't even get shooed from the house. My dad kind of told her she needed to chill out or she needed to go because she wasn't supposed to be there. She got really upset. So upset that she grabbed the necklace that my mother had gone out hours before she got there to go get for her, specifically a really cute, adorable gold necklace that she handpicked in split seconds for her, ripped it off her neck and threw it at my mother, walked out and had her children do the same. Just throw their gifts back at everyone and just walk out. Crying. We still ended up taking pictures that Christmas. Of course, she wasn't in it. And my oldest brother didn't even bother to stay. He left, said he wasn't going to be a part of it. There was no point. He wasn't wrong. There was no point. The mood, the holiday, it had all been ruined. The only thing that saved us was getting plastered drunk and doing it all over again that night. I know that seemed like a pretty long story, and I know it wasn't the part 2 that you guys were expecting about my sister. This isn't the part 2. This is just an acknowledgement of mine at this point. This is just me realizing that no matter how hard I tried, I was never going to please people who didn't see me for who I was to them. And I see that and I acknowledge it, and I use that now. My gift this year from my babies, oh man, not only did it make me cry like an idiot, and I say babies, but you guys, they're grown. They're grown. I have 2 adult kids. That tells you enough. And it made me feel great in a sense to where I wanted to gloat about it. It fluffed up my ego a little bit, and it made me realize I may actually be mothering a little after all. My children gave me something that my mother could never receive. A photo shoot of all my children in one photo. In the best, funniest, crazy poses they could think of. They practiced and did it all on their own. From the oldest to the youngest, putting their touch on a scrapbook with a beautiful, beautiful letter in the forefront to me, their mother. I want to end this podcast with letting every single one of you know that when you've lived a life as tumultuous as mine, when you've tried your hardest to be present for everyone, even though they didn't need you, that there's no shame in realizing the joy in the absence of people, in the absence of feelings, in the absence of expectations. This holiday season, there's things that are I can confidently say that those things that are absent now need to be. So the things that were supposed to be present my entire life can be. And I'm so glad that I, together with my children, am accomplishing that. We are accomplishing that. It's not easy, but it's very possible. And if there's something to learn about me and my kids, is that we truly can make anything possible. Again, I hope everyone had an amazing Christmas Day, Christmas Eve night, and just holiday overall. I hope and pray that everyone's Christmas wishes came true and there was no unnecessary drama or chaos in your lives over this holiday season. I hope and pray that everyone has an amazing new year and is surrounded by those individuals that know who you are and see you for who you are and appreciate who you are. Until next time, this is April Rain, signing out.